So hello and welcome to this video about the factory pattern concept and code implementation. So if you've watched the previous video, as you can imagine, this simple factory um, class will keep getting bigger and more complex if we keep adding more items to the system. We will have to keep adding those if-else statements, and it just makes this class more complex and more harder to deal with. So the idea of the factory pattern is we'll split this class into multiple classes and we'll split the if-else logic over them. So in this case, we have three types of factories. So we will split, you will have three copies of this class. So this is for the American, and this is for the European, and this is for the Middle Eastern. Let's say American factory, and this is the European factory, and this is the Middle Eastern factory. And those classes will have the exact the same if-else logic will be split over them. So this the if-else the function build in the American class will only have the if-else logic that returns American style items, and the European style will have the if-else logic for that returns European style items, and the same for the Middle Eastern. And so the advantage you get is for each new item that we want to create in the factory, we say we want to make an American version of that. So we will do is we will create a class for that item, and we will add an if-else statement here. And if we want to create a European version of that item, we will do the same thing, create a class for that item and add an if-else statement here. And we'll see exactly how this works in the code. So let's take a look at my code now. So this is how I structured my project. I have a folder called contracts for the interfaces, a factory folder for my three factories, and a folder for the items. So let's start with the items folder. We have a European and Middle Eastern and American, and those have the furnitures. This is, for example, an US chair. So the difference between them is the build function. Each function will just output to the console building something, building this furniture object. So this is the same for each of them except for the build function, um, and they all inherit this furniture interface. So let's go to the furniture interface. This just defines the um, signature for build because this is an interface. Let's go to the factories. So each factory will have its create function that's responsible for creating um, furniture items for this line. So this is a European factory, so it will take the type, and if it's chair, it will return a European chair, and if it's a table, it will return a European table. If it's a couch, it will return a European couch. And so it's the same for the US factory and the Middle Eastern factory. They take the type and they return the object of that line of the corresponding type. Okay, so I also added a factory interface, and it's not necessary in this case, but maybe it will be necessary if you need to use the uh, factory as an interface uh, for more complex applications. So let's go now to my program.cs. So I have three. I created um, an instance of each factory, and I created a chair with the European factory, and a table with the US factory, and the couch with the Middle Eastern factory. Let's run this and see what we get. So it runs as expected. So for the first one, we said we built a Europe style chair, and then a US style chair, and then a Middle Eastern style chair. Let's go over what's happening here. So when we call Europe factory.create, so the function that gets called is this if-else statement that will create object with this ending with this Europe thing, and when we call uh, Middle Eastern dot create or American dot create, what will work is the FL statement in the US factory and the FL statement in the Middle Eastern factory. So what we did is we separated the logic for each factory instead of having it all in one file. If you've watched my naive video, this is what I did. And so this is much cleaner and easier to work with than having all of your um, things in one file, which is, so this is basically the factory pattern. So thanks for watching.